All right, so let's do this now against a target. You can get an idea of the range. I'm doing this at middle range. My definition of middle range with a weapon is the tip of your weapon can reach his torso. You're not in grappling range where both empty hands can engage his neck. And you're not in long range. My definition of long range is I could hit his weapon hand when it's extended, but not hit his torso. So I'm going to start this at middle range, playing a 1 and 2 from the center of the diamond. Cut the space in between as a area denial weapon, let's say, on 1, and then horizontal on 2. Swing over, there's your vertical cut, uppercut, retreat, and then thrust. On something this large, I might do a horizontal thrust in his left side of his body, or if he's advancing on me, I might do a thrust as a pushback, or stationary, get back to center, do the thrust. It's up to you and up to him where he's moving. Stationary target, obviously, you play your variables on a stationary target, so you get to do all of them, and then play it more on a moving target to pick which variable is right in that circumstance. So again, you're in the center, close the gap with a 1, diagonal 1, hit horizontal on 2. When I hit here, this is a jab to the eyes. I'm assuming he's going to block it. On Seguidas, the idea is you make contact with him, but you don't try to blow through it like you would on Recontras, and you don't fake it and get around it like you would on Contradas. You make contact and you slip around. Very often I tell people this is like, I used to tell a story of, you know, your big brother walking through the forest, little brother behind you, you find a springy tree branch, you pull it aside, and then as he's getting close, you snap back at him in the face. I stopped telling that story because half the class was laughing, they must be the big brother. The other half was hanging their head down, they must be the little brother, so I stopped telling that story. But the feeling of it is that spring action. You jab when you engage him, when he hits your stick with his, you just come back and spring into that. You don't try to push through it. You don't try to fake around it. This is when you're both kind of equal. He does make contact, he has a block, you slide around it, and that's your vertical. Uppercut against his arm, and then do your thrust where appropriate. This should bring you back to the center. So one more time. 1, horizontal, pivot for your vertical, uppercut, and then thrust, and go back either directly to the center or slightly offline, depending if you want to retreat out of this situation or get more power on your thrust. There's some circumstances we could do this thrust as a hook, moving across the baseline of a forward triangle, if that's what's most open to you and for you, and you can hit him best with that. On the other side of that, you're playing on 1 and 2, you're in the center, you hit on 2, as you advance, step in. Now, because your body's not symmetrical, you're hitting with the right hand. There's your 1, there's your vertical, there's your uppercut and thrust, and I'm running more the center line between the diamond on my retreating footwork, or if he's retreating from me, playing on 1 and 2, step in on 2, catch on, go to attack his face, your head on 1, his stick hits at a block, drop this down, uppercut, and then I could advance on my thrust if he's retreating away from me. So one more time on this side. 1, 2 gets me in. Fake on 1, he blocks that. I use that to whip around. Vertical, uppercut, and thrust. And my footwork here is going to be along the center line, either retreating or advancing, depending on what I need to do in relationship to where he's moving. Try that. One thing that tells me that a beginner has gotten into full contact sparring a little too early is when they jump in and they're standing in outside range, they're both trying to go play tag. They come in for one shot, you know, like they're like a boxer only throwing crosses, let's say. They're trying to get that one big knockout shot and they get out of range. They jump in, they get one shot, they get out of range. It's usually very ineffective. What I like to see and what I train people to do and try to encourage them to do is throw something in the gap to draw his motion, and then depending on how he reacts, Then you make your secondary shot, and your tertiary shot, your third shot is the actual one you want to get in. There's a empty hand version of this where I throw a jab, a cross, and a hook. The jab is, you know, to close his guard to gauge his reaction time. The cross is a smoke screen to hide your movement. And the third hit is the hook. That's the thing I actually wanted to get in, right? So same idea in stick sparring. So what I have people do is stand out here at range. You know, this is where you're really going to start to begin to fight, but not even at stick contact hand to hand yet. And have them start from a variety of chambers. Basic Pekiti-Tirsia chamber, right side chamber, caveman, advanced Pekiti-Tirsia chamber, whatever thing they want, whatever they're comfortable with. And come in and just start walking, coming on diagonal 1 and 2s. If you tie this to Seguidas, we'll do it like this. So 1, 2, 1. Oh, look, I'm in range for that horizontal backhand. So then do the technique from number 1 at Seguidas, right? Let's say they're coming in and they go 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, look, I'm in range for that horizontal now on that 1. So have them hit on 1, 2, uppercut, jab. So they get the feeling of recognizing when a person of a certain height, when I'm inside the danger zone of when they can hit my hand, when they can hit my body, and when I can hit their corresponding strikes, and get used to throwing things in the gap, you know, suppressing fire to cover your charge. You know, you see in the movies all the time, or in military tactics, somebody yell, cover me, and the other guys behind cover start shooting, bang, 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 to make the bad guys keep their head down, right? That's the same thing you're doing here. Don't just jump up, you know, in the danger area, like the zone between World War I trenches, we call it no man's land, and then jump in, try to tag the guy, and jump out of no man's land. Let your machine gun fire while you're in no man's land, crossing that gap, and then do the techniques you wanted to do once you're close enough to do them. So, a little extra piece on how to bridge that gap. Okay, here's a version of a football drill you can use to get people used to bridging the gap quickly with effective covering fire and a reaction time, because you have to react to something the opponent is doing. So get an instructor full geared up just in case in protective armor. Probably want to put colored tape on the end of a long staff. Have the guy, especially training for tournaments is a nice one, charge towards him with 2 lines of tape in the ground. Somewhere between him passing the first line of tape and before he gets to the second line of tape, I'm going to go and raise a stick side. When I raise that side, he charges towards that side, attacks it, but goes past it. And then he charges in. As he's charging, he clears the first line. I'll raise a side, he attacks that and goes past it. So this is a reaction time drill because he's running and he has to respond to some stimuli. He either goes right side or left side, depending on which side goes up. And it's a good way to take a progression from doing a technique in the air, doing a technique on a stationary target at the range you're actually be hitting, to approaching the target under control and going right and left on my own choice, 2, doing the same technique charging towards an opponent and then choosing which way I need to go, depending on, you know, which side goes up. Another way to do this, and you really need to have good armor and guys with good control for this, is get an instructor all armored up, or a guy who really wants to get into tournaments all armored up, and the trainer actually comes and attacks with that idea. He runs towards me. Say I'm the guy who wants to get into tournaments. He runs towards me, and I don't know if he's going to attack right or left side. I do know he's going to do number 1 off the first set Seguidas, but he might do that running past my right side. He might do that running past my left side. And if I really want to get into tournaments, especially guys who are not footwork centric They're more stand and fight and guard well, and then the counter punchers, let's say. This is a good drill for them to get an idea of, all right, how do I make this tight? How do I make my counters off the mark? And you do need footwork, but some people really instinctively only do minimal footwork, maybe injuries, or it may be that's their fighting style. So what minimal footwork do I need to get off the line and counter hit before he runs past me? So the basis of that drill is both sides are armored up, well armored. You might even do well armored and foam sticks for safety. And have bad guy number one, or the bad guy, the opponent, charge you. And you know what you're gonna do one of two things. You're gonna do technique one or Seguidas one, and either go right or left. Charges towards you, you have to deal with that. And I'm in the right flight path, I'm in a private airport, so that's it for today.